Hey, everybody. Welcome to Saturday on Office Hours. I know I'm not supposed to be here, but I am, so who knows? We're just going to have to deal with it. This is the place we assemble every day, answering your media and tech-related production questions as best we can. Mark Giuliani is in Alexandria, Virginia, and he's going to be reading for us today. So, Mark, what have we got?
Good morning, Bill. Our first question comes in from the QR code. And it's from Ryan in Los Angeles. Looking for broadcast-suitable camera bodies to use with Tricasters and ATEM TV studio switchers. Used market in the $2,000 range, 1080p 60. Mix of sports and corporate events, but no super long lens work. C300 at Mark II on the first list. Anything to avoid?
Wow, it's a big question. And so you're really kind of looking for broadcast cameras, but in the used market in the $2,000 range. And Ronnie Hofsway has some ideas for you.
Yeah, I don't think there is anything to say about the 300. They are pretty good. And if you're going to look for other cameras, it depends what type of lenses you might already have in your shelves. If you have a lot of older type Canon lenses, of course, this camera would be, the body would be an easy one to choose. If you have other types of lenses, just beware that the lenses are the pricier things here. The camera bodies can be switched out all the time, and the lenses stay forever like diamonds. So depending on your needs, I would be looking at camera bodies at least that has SDI out still. And slowly we see the market moving over to digital solutions for fiber and NDI for some of the use. I don't like NDI personally. I would still be using baseband cables like SDI, both for 1080 and 4K still for probably a lot of years to come. So look for that, because I think some of your usage scenarios will probably need longer cable runs. So using baseband like SDI will make it easier for you to also put in place fiber extensions between those positions for where you are putting your EIC or the engineering room, and where you will put your cameras. And of course, think of power usage as well.
All of those things are really good pieces of advice. We've got some others. Let's see. Mickey in the chat says Sony FS7 is his recommendation. You know, one of the things you're going to have to deal with is lenses, and Ronnie brought that up because it is critical. There are different lens mounts for cameras in this class. You can find B4 mounts, PL mounts. The EF mounts have been, that's Canon's standard, have been really popular in the last 10 years. And so really, if you're following Ronnie's advice to figure the lenses out first, which I highly recommend, whatever you settle on for those lens mounts, all your cameras are going to have to be able to accept those. And various cameras from various manufacturers, for example, Blackmagic cameras easily take EF mounts. It's more problematic and more difficult to adapt them to things like B4 or PL mounts. It can be done. You can kind of mount anything to anything, but you do find yourself in circumstances where if you're adapting a PL mount lens into a non-broadcast style camera, and I would consider even the Canon C300 to be in that kind of category, you'll often need an intermediate stage, which makes things a little more complicated, both in determining the focal length you need and in communication between the camera body and the lens. So it gets a little tricky in there. If you end up finding actual equipment and you want to check it out, come to maybe the Wednesday show or the Friday show when the full panel is here, and you'll get some suggestions on maybe how to piece something together that works inside the price range you're looking at. It's not unreasonable. You should be able to get this done, but there are going to be a lot of little gotchas like that. You're going to have to deal with not just lenses, but mountings, power, just a lot of little details if you don't settle on a single camera system and can buy 5 of the same things or 3 of the same things. Let's go on to the next question.
Peter Belbin from Houston, Texas. I thought my Wacom One 13 was kaput. It wasn't. It just needed the cable connected in the other way around. And I bought a Wacom One 14, discovered it needs a breakout box, which is an extra purchase, to make it usable with BroadBoard. Which do you use?
I don't use any of them, but I tell you, your question, Peter, sounds about as normal to me as is humanly possible, which is that I thought there was something wrong with the device, and it turns out to be something else than the device itself. In fact, I just went through this the last 3 or 4 days. I literally thought I had lost a hard drive. I mean, it really wasn't spinning up in my normal circumstance. I was thinking, oh, no, I have to go out and buy. And this is one of my main storage devices. It's like 8 terabytes, and I thought, I'll have to go buy a new one. And it's Thunderbolt drive, and it turned out that I eventually detached it from everything else and stuck it directly into my laptop, and it spooled right back up and started working again. So there is something in that interconnection process that was actually making the drive look like it was dead when it wasn't. I'm not saying that's what's happening with you, but as you found out, you thought it was kaput, then it wasn't. So we talk a lot about having a hierarchy of testing so that you kind of know how to troubleshoot these connectivity processes as well as the actual device processes. And it just seems like a good idea to follow those processes when you can. Mark Giuliani, you wanted to weigh in on this?
So I do use a Wacom, but it's the Wacom Cintiq, and I got the larger one just because I'm usually marking up architectural drawings during a meeting. So the larger one works fine for me. I set it up so long ago that I'm afraid if I tried to remember which cable went where, I would lead you down the wrong road. So you can chat with me in the, afterwards, and I can reanalyze what I did to get it to work.
Yeah. So a lot of pluses for Wacom tablets in general. The Wacom 113 is mentioned, the Cintiq 24 Touch. A lot of people are having success with them. Peter, in the internal chat here, said Broadcom and Wacom 14 does not, quote, work, but to feed it HDMI over ATEM, I suppose there's a video capture device that shows the ATEM output full screen on the Mac and have one USB connection. Then see it full screen output. He notes it seems simpler to get a breakout box. It's in one of these things where it's kind of sort of working, but not the way you want it to. And now you have to track down the little details to get it to do more than that. So we wish you well, Peter, in your search for this thing kind of working, but not really working. Let's go on to our next question.
Okay. Raj Shandil from Los Angeles. What USB-C dongle would you use for audio in and out and to charge the iPad Pro?
Ronnie's going to help you out here. Ronnie?
Yeah, so what I've been using a few times is something that is probably a really, really white page with a white adapter on. This is the Apple original multi-port adapter. It has a USB-A port on it and a power in, and it also has a HDMI out, which can be used for different stuff if you are going to connect it to a display of some sorts to see what you are doing on your iPad. And the USB-A port is easily connected to whatever you compatible sound card. Even the cheapest one will work in that USB-A port, and the power plug will provide power to your iPad as long as you want. So that's the easiest one, and since this is an original Apple product, it is very compatible as well.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, we went through a period of time when everybody was talking on the internet about why is Apple charging like $49 for a Thunderbolt cable, and then somebody put one in like a fluoroscope machine, something like that, and they took a close-up of the actual connectors. And it turns out in these things that look like simple connectors, sometimes there's an absolute amazing set of ICs and circuitry in the connectors themselves. Apple tends to engineer cables with just tons of technology in the cable itself. And so one result of that is that the most trustworthy things that I've ever used to connect to any of my Apple devices have been official Apple cables. Not to say that other cables don't work fine, but I can't believe that the third-party cable's going for, $12 for a USB-C cable compared to the Thunderbolt cable from Apple that's going for $49. There is actually a difference, and they kind of showed that by showing that super close-up fluoroscope of the actual connector, and there was an incredible amount of circuitry in those, obviously doing bidirectional testing and a lot of other stuff. It wasn't just a signal cable, simple as that. So I'd back up Ronnie's suggestion 100%. Next question.
Florence Donald from right across the river in Silver Spring, Maryland. Can we hear about the test show happening on Monday?
Yes, you can hear about this. I will tell you a little bit about it. This came up because the next Tuesday show is going to feature Guy Cochran, our old friend Guy Cochran. And Guy is going to be talking about his web channel. And he has I think it's 60,000 subscribers to that. So he's got a pretty big operation going on there. And he also is very well connected. We all know Guy. Guy used to be a retailer of a lot of stuff. He's got tremendous contacts in the industry. And he told somebody who said, hey, you want a raffle prize to give away? And everybody said, Guy said, well, sure, we can explore that. And sure enough, his contact popped up with a raffle prize for the show on Tuesday. It is a Blackmagic ATEM Mini Extreme ISO G2 switchers. It is one of these. So we are going to be giving that away on the Tuesday show. As a part of that, you can imagine the back end of office hours got, okay, well, this is very exciting. How are we going to do this? How are we going to arrange? So we got to give it away. We got to do it fairly, but we're not really used to doing this kind of thing. So there's been a lot of chatter in the back. So we are trying to figure out if we do this, and if that we announce it on that website with 60,000 people, at least theoretically able to find that message, we may get a huge influx of new people. So how are we going to build some process that is strictly fair, is appropriate? We have to gather information. We also have to let people opt in or out and not give too much information. We're not trying to surf for building a mailing list that's going to annoy you from there over. I mean, you know us. We're office hours. We try to be as circumspect about those kind of things as possible, but also successfully pull off this raffle. So the Monday show, the Monday temp show, the quick one, is a test of a back-end system to be able to do this giveaway appropriately. And then the Tuesday night show, we are going to give it away live on the air in some sort of a sweepstakesy kind of process. We'll find some way to get everybody's names in. We'll find some random number generator kind of thing. And we're going to do our best to do this as above board possible so everybody gets an equal chance. So come back on Tuesday, 6 p.m. if you want to get involved in this. Mark, you have some questions?
No, actually, I was just going to say that the back end may want to go to any one of those music radio stations that has contest and flip through their website until they find the legal language on the contest and who's eligible and who's not.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a lot. We've been having meetings for a couple of days already. Everybody is kind of, we used to give away, and so we actually have an attorney. You may not know this, but Office Hours is an official 501c3. As such, we have a board of directors and everything else. And everybody is doing our due diligence in the back end to make this legit. Just have it work right so that it is in truth a random drawing. Everybody has an equal chance, and that we only take as much information from the people who want to hop into the contest as they are comfortable giving. There'll be equal chances for everybody who signs up, but we have to, all of a sudden you put yourself into the mental thing of, okay, so what if somebody tries to just flood it with sign-ups so that they have more chances than everybody else. So you've got to have all sorts of things to make sure that everybody can only enter once, that it's equal across the board. You need to gather personal information so you can get to the prize to them, but not suddenly make everybody angry who comes to the show that they're suddenly getting flooded with junk mail or things like that. So we're going to do it appropriately. The board is working on it. We're all working on it. So tune in. If you want to come to Monday to the test run, you're more than welcome to. That'll be in the regular Mukana kind of back end. And then the next step of that, of course, is the actual Tuesday night lottery. So be there for that. That's my show. So I will be talking to Guy. Also talking to Guy about just how he's managed to accomplish this. I mean, a 60,000 sub group on Facebook or wherever it is, that's not easy. I mean, there's going to be a lot of extra people. Aaron Parecki's going to be there, Ryan Summerfield, Adam Tao, Chuck Wojak. It's going to be a really nice show. So if nothing else, you'll want to do that, even if you don't get yourself into the lottery. But of course, everybody, this is a really nice unit. I mean, this is the latest and greatest from Blackmagic, and it's a $2,100 prize. So we're going to do this scrupulously. We'll figure it out, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night. Next question.
Raj Shandil from Los Angeles. Which camera company has the best autofocus for the price? Canon, Sony, or Blackmagic?
Ronnie Hasso is going to dive in on this one.
I can start with Blackmagic. I didn't even know they had autofocus. They have kind of autofocus, but compared to Canon and Sony, I just say it a little bit funnily. They don't have autofocus compared to those two. So asking me what I'm very, very used to is Sony's extreme good autofocus, and the newer models, which also is even more machine learning, knows actually the skeleton of a person. So it understands when you are turning and you are moving your head around and you might be activating eye focus. It understands that when you are turning around away from the camera, it knows exactly where your eye will be in the depth when you return back and rotate and look back at the camera. I've seen multiple demos of this, and we've been using Sony cameras for 15, 20 years now, and the autofocus on Sonys are just amazing. You will ask yourself why you never changed before, or why you never went with the Sony. Canon is also really, really good, but I don't have that much practical experience with Canons. I just know that it's a little bit different type of autofocus, and they are also moving very fast into the AI or machine learning autofocus. So those two are definitely the two of the contenders I would check out further if autofocus is really important for you. And also, I would say that maybe Canon is a little bit easier to configure, but Sony goes a little bit deeper maybe in each of the settings, so that you can configure them to the autofocus to function exactly like you would like it to.
Mark Giuliani.
So I have a Canon R5, which I use to take pictures of our architectural work for our portfolio and website. And I have an FX3 from Sony that I'm using right now for this purpose. And the Canon is not nearly as fast as the Sony when it comes to autofocus. The Sony runs laps around it, at least in my environment, the way I'm using it.
There's a lot of chat in Mukana about this, and James Haldane had a couple of quotes. He says Canon might have the best at any price, but Sony might be better with fast motion. He also notes Canon has better menus than Sony, contrary to what is often said on the show. And he also notes that Canon has the best autofocus in low light. There are Sony promoters as well. Sony has always been, ever since Sony did that incredible low light performance upgrade and really spent time with their chips, it seems to me that was the first thing that Sony, after they came kind of back from being away from the video business a little bit, in my estimation. I mean, for many years of my career, Sony was where you went to get really solid quality cameras. But in the DSLR and after, Canon, of course, with its 5D Mark II and the rest of those, really kind of established the prosumer kind of, well, this is way better than it needs to be for what I'm spending for it kind of thing, changed into that era. And then everybody put really huge amounts of research into their DSLR form factor cameras. And I think we've all benefited from it. And nowhere else, I think, more than in autofocus, bringing that to video cameras as well. And I'm incredibly impressed with the Sony that I'm looking into now in terms of its ability to do that very quick, sharp, tack sharp focus quickly. but I've heard from a lot of my friends in Canon that it's a two-way race. I have not had the same kind of experience with the Blackmagic cameras either. That if they have autofocus, and somebody I think in Brody Hafner said, I think Blackmagic's autofocus is still limited, works best on its Leica mount. So and Ike Potter noted that Blackmagic has autofocus on the 6K Pro. So everybody is playing in the game. But I do think it's kind of a two-way horse race. I'm a little bit on the Sony side just because I'm sitting in front of it every day, and it's much better than the Canon solution I had before. But I am not going to dismiss Blackmagic. They've spent a lot of money investigating these things too, and horses for courses kind of thing. Raj, hope that helps you at least make some sense out of the game, the way it's being played right now. Let's go on to our next question.
Brody Hefner from New York City. Rock Lititz offers training designed to build a new generation of roadies to manage traveling shows. Given their focus on hands-on experience, does this seem like a good avenue for entry into the field? And he gives a URL for a website.
Yeah, listen, that whole game forever, since the early days of touring bands, has been a who-you-know kind of an environment. Yes, the industry now needs more. Well, I wouldn't say it needs more people than it used to. I mean, let's face it, there's less show touring done today than probably was done 10, 15 years ago in the huge rock concerts constantly era. It seems like those are a little harder to do. And certainly in the mid-level acts, trying to build an audience by going on the road, I would think that many of those young artists are thinking more along the lines of YouTube reputation building than they are, let me get out and do 100 shows in 170 days and travel in a van around the country, which was the standard old way to do it. For the big shows, I do think it's probably moving toward a more professional thing. Those are jobs people have for some years, and they generally kind of age out of them. You don't see a lot of old roadies. It's very, very, very physical work. I went too far in suggesting that because you do actually see a lot of guys who've been in the industry for a long time. But it's very technical. They have to hire huge crews, and it's a difficult life. I mean, only a certain amount of people want to do that, particularly the roadies who are pre-building, because you know that the big acts these days have 2 or 3 setups. The Taylor Swifts, the Stones, the people who do these huge shows and travel, they will do a night somewhere, and there's a whole nother crew while they're performing, setting up the next venue, and then they're going to that. So they're never even getting to see the shows or hang out backstage and stuff like that. They're literally just road workers. But I would think that if you're really interested in that and you want your life to be a part of that, and some people just absolutely love that, I would think the hands-on experience is a really good idea, because there's nothing like being able to say, I understand how this chain hoist works, and you don't have to teach me when we're going to the next, I understand rigging. I understand the language of backstage. It's an entirely different environment. And the more pragmatic hands-on work you can get with this, the better off you're going to be almost always. Next question.
Next question is from Raj Shendil in Los Angeles. Thoughts on the Sennheiser Profile 2-person clip-on wireless microphone system versus DJI and the Rode Wireless?
Man, hasn't that been an amazingly quick transition? I think the technology and the industry caught up. I mean, there's so many of these small 2-person clip-on wirelesses from all these companies. So the chips must have kind of solved the big problems. We're just seeing a lot of this, a lot of activity in this space. Ronnie, what do you think?
This microphone is Sennheiser's attempt to just compete in the same area that Rode and all these others vendors have been for
small rig,
now.
DJI, Rode. My God, they're from everybody out there.
We have a lot of Rode microphones that we started with, and then we went over to DJI for all these small cool productions that we do with phones, etc. And this is Sennheiser's answer to that, and they need to have a kind of a small market market share in that area as well. But beware, these are still in the Wi-Fi frequencies. If you are in a heavily used Wi-Fi zone, you will probably have huge problems even with these microphones. They are 32-bit float, and so you can record locally on them. So they are probably paying the license for doing that, and I guess that is also the fact for those ones sold in the United States, even if there are some patents that they have to be paying for, I guess. If they don't do it without paying, I guess they aren't. And they have a pretty long battery time, similar to what the best ones out there already do, like the DJI's ones. So it depends. Sennheiser have a long time doing microphones, whereas a lot of the other companies doesn't have that pedigree, so to speak. So I haven't purchased these ones yet. These are the ones we are talking about. So they are kind of neat, good plugs for connecting external microphones as well. So the first one that tests this, please report back, and we'll discuss it further.
Yeah, it's an interesting form factor. My wife works for a public TV station, and for some of their reporters, they got some of them that are now just quickly using not DSLRs, they're using their iPhones to do quick on-the-spot interview hits. So they went with the DJI system, and I had to help her with a little bit of information, so I've been playing around with one for a while. I haven't actually put it in and recorded with it, so I'm not here to talk about it. But just the interesting form factor of a small rechargeable box that, like a lot of things, will recharge the units when it's in there, so the box has a battery in it. Then 2 transmitters and a receiver, all in a little tiny thing that you can toss in your pocket without problems. There are pluses and there are minuses. She's saying the reporters are having good experiences with this generally on the air. Now, these are not audio professionals, and I would not trust them to tune a system any farther than you could throw them. But to do the job that they have to do, to put a lav clip on a person to improve the sound over the on-camera, or worse, I'm shooting with my phone and I'm naturally just grabbing the phone sound. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster. So by putting a wireless mic, even a less than optimal one, on somebody, you still do improve intelligibility by a tremendous amount. And then I'm just seeing that everybody's hopping into this game. The one that I looked at from Small Rig, I think, is like $89, and it's also 2 microphones, little tie clip size mics, a receiver, 2 receivers. I had to look down into I just was fascinated because I've been working with the DJI one. I looked down and I thought, wow, you've just got 2 receivers, but they're a little bit different. That one of them has a 3.5 millimeter, the other one has lightning. So if you want to do stereo, you have to figure out a little adaptation kind of thing. I was just trying to dig down into the things. And so if you're going to go in this direction, read through it, make sure that it meets your needs. But man, this is a lot of basic, okay capability at that price point. $89 for 2 wireless links to a camera that they claim gives you 6, 7, 8, I think, outside on the beach with nothing between you, 900 feet of a connection back to a camera. That is certainly going to get you better audio than trying to shoot with your phone camera by itself. Ronnie, you had some more thoughts about this.
Yeah, and some of these brands or products are they are promoting it like you put the transmitter here and you just are ready to go. I think most of these transmitters would, for roads part, blinking lights, same with DJI. So you have something on your chest blinking, different lights and colors, and I think they are too big as well. So one of the big features for these microphones is that you can connect a lavalier with some better quality even, and have the small lav put on your chest or hidden away in your tie or whatever you are wearing, and still get good sound and hide the transmitter away. So I think many of these transmitters that are meant to be put directly in front of your jacket, or I think they are too big. They have to be smaller, like the DJI 3, for instance, or the Mini, which are really, really small, and you can actually just do a decent try to hide them much easier than these big ones.
Yeah, I want to say, though, let me see if I can pull this up. There's the new small rig system. One of the things that really shocked me is, if you can see on the outside, the one with the green light on the right and the other one, these are literally the size of tie clips. And they also took off any branding. So it literally doesn't have a big small rig logo and stuff like this. And this is the one that's $89. And it just said to me, there's something else happening. I would not ever for 1 second try to replace Electrosonics or Sony or a good wireless mic system. That's not where you are going if you're trying to do this. If you're doing music performance or something where audio quality matters, this is not the route you're taking. At least I don't think you should be taking this route, because I've already had the experience on the audiobook stuff that I'm doing of just various microphones getting content in. And boy, when you're really doing something that's audio-centric, like the audiobook, I can easily tell the difference between somebody on an inexpensive AT microphone at their desk and somebody who's stepped up to a better microphone. The difference in clarity and presence and everything is just remarkable. Self-noise. So there are differences. And if quality is your goal, these are not the solution for you. But if improving from terrible to acceptable, and it's something consumable like a quick news report that is probably not going to stand the test of time, it's going to be obsolete the next day. This will make a big difference between trying to record sound on your camera and putting at least some sort of microphone on a person to get back. The inverse square principle is something you just can't beat. So a closer microphone will always outperform one that's at distance. So that's my 2 cents about it. Raj, we hope we find what you're looking for. Next question.
Tony Mobley from Noonan, Georgia. I have a Stream Deck XL that I'm using to turn on camera, mic and zoom, and doing comms. Seems like a waste of its potential. What else might I be able to use it for?
Ronnie Hofsoy is going to sneak in on this one. Ronnie?
Well, the list is endless, almost. So this is something of the things you can use it for. But I'm going to post this link in the chat, and we can have the chat go amok and see what they come up with. But a few things I use it for is of course, changing levels in my audio mixer. I can do plus minus. I mute things in my audio mixer. I can even control and reboot switches in my Ubiquiti network or Unify network. I can do control presentations, PowerPoints or keynotes. And if you are using other stuff like Vicrio Listener, which is a small software app, I can send commands to a given machine in my network, and that simulates keyboard strokes on that particular machine using Vicrio Listener. That is something we use a lot. For instance, controlling Insta360 cameras remotely is kind of cool. Of course, everything like prompters is easily controlled. On/off with projectors. So the light controls for WLED or even Hue, etc. Philips Hue is controllable. You can have controls going into playout or media servers. So the list goes on and on and on, and everyone is creating new plugins. And going back to the Stream Deck itself, BitFocus that creates Companion with all these functionality is much more supportive for any type of equipment than Stream Deck itself has in their own app. and you can even run them side by side if you would like to. And I have upgraded to from BitFocus Companion, which the list is referring to, and moved a little bit up the ladder to something called BitFocus Buttons, which is actually the big brother of BitFocus Companion. Uses most of the same functionality, but it's much easier to do more advanced layouts like pop-up displays. So I can have one button popping up all the input assignments for a given ATEM switcher, or I can have a pop-up coming in from the right and make everything adjustable on the audio levels, or I can enable auto mix or whatever I would choose to. So it's more a visual more usable visual UI for me to use buttons instead, because it has a lot of more functionality. So for instance, now when my microphone is unmuted and I'm talking, my Stream Deck in front of me is blinking slowly, indicating that the microphone is unmuted. So there is a lot of more options, and they even have a free tire you can start playing with. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's really, really cool.
Our next question is from Douglas Carmichael. Have you ever used Claude Code for non-coding projects like analyzing email datasets?
Constantly. I'm sorry, I had that off there. Doesn't Claude Code work for everything, for everywhere, to solve every problem that's ever been known to man? I'm shocked if it doesn't. It seems like everybody's telling me that AI is so much smarter now than anyone I know, and consequently, I can't imagine you can't mumble something half articulate into Claude Code or any of the rest of these LLMs and immediately make your life better. Being a little facetious, but they certainly have changed the world in terms of giving people, extending their capabilities. Ronnie Hofsway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, you can use Claude for much more than just creating an email or doing code, so development or programming code. The logic behind many of these LLMs are that they are structuring data in ways much faster than you as a person can do. So for instance, organizing something in an Excel sheet, a really powerful tool. Creating summaries of large data sets coming from a accounting system, really advanced numbers coming out of that one. So you can use it for anything, and when you are trying to do something that you are planning to do once a month, once a week, etc., you might as well just make an app for that and create a droplet or similar that you can just drag the data set into, and then it produces everything automatically. So the time it takes and the possibility we have as private persons with a good idea to produce something or create something or develop something that is much more advanced is really getting better and better. And everyone that hasn't tried using LLMs or AI in this type of way, define a problem you have in your real life, find out what you are actually doing to process that input of data and what you would like or expect to have as an output from that, and try to just explain that to an AI like Claude and see if it can help you create an application. It's really that simple. You just chat with this LLM and it creates your application for you.
Next question.
Our next question is from Paul Ball, who's from Austin, Texas. My Tula Mic won't work via the Rodecaster Video S, even though the Shure MV7 works. Tips for the Rodecaster Video S.
Just trying to get out of my last screen here and look up the Tula Mic, because to be honest with you, I don't even know what that is. I'm sure somebody does here. So I can think of half a dozen reasons that a particular signal generator doesn't work with a particular signal receiver, but maybe Ronnie Hofsway knows. Ronnie, you raise your hand here.
Yeah, it has been said that it doesn't work with all types of USB microphones. So I would either use forums to check which one has been working and for everyone that has a USB microphone already, don't expect it to work unless you actually have firm proof of that it actually is working. So don't expect it to work, and you might have to purchase a new microphone, or you might have to wait until the firmware is possibly updated. And Rode has a good pedigree of updating firmwares relatively quickly. So let them know you have this microphone, and if there are thousands others that know needs to have support for that microphone, maybe they speed up and upvote their own internal development plans and create some support for it.
Is this the thing you're talking about? This odd-looking little microphone and recorder all in one thing? It's an interesting-looking little gizmo. Looks like an electric shaver to me, but that's not a qualitative judgment. That's just a form judgment. It's interesting. Let's see. Is there anybody else who's commented about it? Tommy says, Paul Wallace, just use the Shure. Anyway, so it looks like nobody has, at least nobody in this group has particular experience with that. So let's move on. Next question.
Guy Cochran from Seattle, Washington. What do you think of the new Stream Deck integrated release from Yamaha?
I'm not at all surprised that there's the Stream Decks are so popular. I mean, there's just so many people have them. They're inexpensive. They are amazing in the utility that you can get at them. So the fact that they're working with other large companies and co-promotes essentially for all intents and purposes, that seems to me to be a good view of the future. I know I have my issues with my little Stream Deck implementation. It doesn't do everything I want. But then again, I haven't given it the time it deserves because these things are so flexible. They can do so many things. And the idea of programmable buttons as a concept is great. I mean, you balance that with the idea of programmable buttons with the idea of single-purpose buttons. If I'm just trying to get something done and I don't want to think about it, single-purpose buttons have always, better. I want a switch that says record or stop. I don't need to make that digital and variable. I don't want the record button today to be the stop button tomorrow. That would be a disaster. But that said, specific buttons like my ATEM Mini Pro that's sitting next to me, I like the fact that 3 is always going to be 3 for that. But the Stream Deck that is sitting below it means that I can page 2 pages over and get my little 6-button unit to do 35 different things, and that's also valuable. So horses for courses. Ronnie, did you talk about this already, or do you want to hop in on this?
Yeah, I wanted to show it. It seems to be, Guy is always getting all these cool gadgets, and this is a motorized faders door controller made by Yamaha. So just having the single motorized fader for controlling something that is really important for you is really cool. And I agree with you, Courtney, Bill, the way that they are now integrating into other vendors' products is really cool. But of course, this controller has a lot of other tactical controls, so transport controls like you know from the good DAWs that we need to be having, and it seems to be having different ports as well. So I'll have to take a look at this. It's really cool looking gadget, and if it's Yamaha's quality inside, that's really cool.
When you look at the arc of the product, Stream Deck as a thing, it came out of kind of nowhere not that many years ago. I mean, it hasn't been like the old audio companies have been around forever. And boy, they globally just blew up because they figured out how to do something that the world needed done. They did it reliably. They did it well. They did it in a way that's flexible and consistent with modern computer needs. And so they blew up. The fact that they now have lots of resources and a really big economic engine behind them, driving them through the sales of all these products, means that they're looking to expand. And one way to do that traditionally has been partnering with others. So hopefully for everybody who loves Yamaha and who is interested in Stream Deck, this will be nothing but a good thing for them. Next question.
Craig McFarland from Boston. Have people weighed in on the new Insta360 Link 2 Pro, capable of 4K and has a half-inch sensor?
I haven't heard anybody talking about them specifically. Now, the Insta360 Link Pros are another one of those products that I hadn't heard the name 3 years ago, and then suddenly a lot of people were talking about them, so they must do something really well. I don't own any of their particular things. But the fact that they have moved into a more dense sensor and a bigger sensor doesn't surprise me at all. Again, there's constant reason to improve products and refresh the market's impression of your products and services. So fingers crossed for them that this turns out to be the next stage. One of the things that's interesting to me is that you often get a rev of a product like this. It will allow more capacity and it will be at the same price. And so I applaud the companies for figuring out they can, maybe source a new chip that's now in full production and swap it out from the old one and not go in and say now with 4K and an extra $50 on top of that. So I don't know that that's the case. I'm just saying we've seen that happen with a lot of things. In computers and other things, they often come out at approximately the same price as the old unit with more capabilities. So nothing but pluses for that, even if it always makes me feel bad that I bought the first iteration and the second iteration is at the same price and does more. That kind of ticks me off a little. Next question.
Cindy Droza from Erie, Colorado. What does everyone think of the Obsbot camera line compared to the Insta360?
Yeah, nobody raised a hand on this, and I don't use either of them, so I have no personal impression. I do know that there's been a lot of chatter over the years here on Office Hours about both of these. The idea of these kind of tiny, small robotic pan tilt zoom desktop cameras, boy, that's a field that has just gone from zero to tons of competitors and a lot of products sold over the last few years. So obviously the people who are using them really like them and recommend them to their friends, and more people buy them. But sadly, I'm not the person to weigh in on this, and nobody else seems to have raised hands. So we're going to just go to the next level. Next question.
Okay, Kyle Hammond from Chicago, Illinois. I have a friend looking for a camera for streaming sports via Gamechanger app. Currently using an iPhone and looking to upgrade. Arizona, so needs to withstand sun and heat. Budget-friendly suggestions from the panel.
I can speak from long experience, as I was born and raised in Arizona, and I used to shoot with all sorts of cameras. The Arizona heat is not an insignificant factor. I never put thermometers inside my camera cases, but when it's 115 degrees outside and 5% humidity, anything in the direct sunlight. I will say this. My most important accessory when I was shooting in Arizona, I had 4 really large, really opaque black umbrellas that were on complicated grip arrangements, so that whenever I set up any piece of hardware, the second thing I would do would be to put a heavy umbrella over the top of it, because that heat can be really punishing. Ronnie Hossoy, your thoughts?
I think you have to do something that I've done with some of the cameras. Even we're in the Arctic, we sometimes have hot summers. And you probably would need to just use the phone, but add a fan to it or a cooling aluminum rib on the backside of it to keep it down, the temperature down as much as possible. There are also active cooling elements like Peltier elements that are actually working as a freezer, micro freezer, so to speak. But if he's used to using his phone or even iPads, which has a bigger aluminum back pane to cool down, I think I would go with that first, and make sure you can remove it afterwards, so that the glue doesn't stick to it for some reason.
I once did a shoot in Phoenix. I was working for a large spa company, and they shipped in. They had one set of spas that they sold east of the Mississippi and one that they sold west of the Mississippi. So they had to bring both sets of models, and they had, I think, 3 or 4 models in each. So we had to set up 7 spas on our property, and we shot in August. And the only thing I will note is that the only people who had a good time were the models who were in the spas. The rest of that shoot was an absolute nightmare for everybody. In my studio, which was air conditioned, I had to set up swamp coolers on the walkway in there so people could so their bodies could slightly adjust between the full sun outside. I would keep them for a couple of minutes in that interim swamp cooled thing to start lowering their temperature, and then let them come into the air conditioned studio, because if you walked back and forth from air conditioning to 117 probably in the sun, full sun, back and forth, you are wiped out at the end of like half a day. Your body goes through all those changes, and it's darn hard. So yeah, take heat seriously. Take care of yourselves on all shoots, and boy, certainly allow breaks, and I don't have to talk about provision of water and stuff like that. Take heat seriously. We lost a lot of people over the course of the years to heat stroke and sunstroke, and people getting lost in the desert and not being prepared for it. Next question.
Alex 4D Goldner from London. OpenAI's Sora iOS video generation app was #1 on the App Store in October. It's now far down the chart. What does that say about the future of these kinds of apps?
It's a really interesting topic. Ronnie Hossoy is going to start us off with his thoughts.
I think we will see that there's a new app popping up doing this, and people jump to that and start using it. And then a few months later, there's another app doing similar, but another stuff in a different way, maybe to another audience and doing other things. The big problem here is jurisdictions and lawmakers. We see that UK now are talking about stopping certain versions of an app because it made it possible to create images that were not acceptable in that culture. And we see these examples pop up all the time, and I think there is the thing that is scaring a little bit is that all these tech companies that create these apps are trying to push the envelope of what is acceptable, and they probably do stuff in their apps that is not good, but it will create a lot of users in a really, really short time. And I don't think ethics is on the top of these companies' lists of reasons to why or why not include a function. So I think we will get a lot of types of apps that does this type of things. There will be developers that try to push boundaries or borders to what they seem as acceptable, and they will try to create money at every time, every single attempt to get something out in the market. So then the problem is users will jump onto it and create stuff that we probably doesn't need as a society, and lawmakers are following after 4 years or 10 years later.
Yeah, the other thing about all of AI just in general is that it used to be there was a couple of brands that you knew, and, you know, ChatGPT was the big monster, and then there were a couple of others came out. Now all of a sudden, we have not only multiple AI generators, but we have AI code or AI links or connections built into so many other products that I think it's getting a little diffused. It's like Apple Intelligence is built into Apple stuff, and some of these other systems are now built into other platforms. So who knows? Half the time, I'm not even sure. I know I'm using AI. I know it's filling in stuff. But if you were to ask me what was generating this little synopsis that I saw when I was surfing the web beneath a comment that a comment thread that I was interested in, I couldn't tell you where it was coming from. I literally have no idea. I know something AI is generating something and contributing to the discussion, but I don't know what it is. And I do think that that's kind of a hint about where this is going to go. It's going to be a hard-to-brand product as it gets so widespread in use that I'm not sure the market opportunities are the same ones that they were. And at some point, if everything is doing this kind of thing, is there a reason to spend money on a bespoke brand to do these tasks? I don't know the answer to that, but it's just an interesting question for me. Next question.
Eduardo Augustine from Panama City. Have you ever had clients demand the amount of staff members and amount of cameras for a production to determine if they'll agree to the proposal?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that, but I'm not saying nobody has. Mark Giuliani, have you seen this phenomenon in the wild?
I will compare it to a different industry. In architecture and engineering, a lot of times we'll get customers that will want to reverse engineer your proposal so they can compare it to other bids and make sure they're getting an equal value, or they know where something's out of whack if the bids are really far apart.
Ah, interesting. Yeah, I can see that. Ronnie, your thoughts?
Short answer, no. But of course, we have clients demanding a certain quality, and if we, as a producer or company that do this job, and have a bid, or maybe there is discussions on how to achieve the results they need, but we have never had a client second guess our number of people or number of cameras. They trust us to be the professional. And if you get that question, you should be asking yourself if your bid is professional enough, or if the client actually are out or after two things. Maybe they are not sure that you can deliver the quality or the expected production quality that they are thinking. The other thing is that the one that Mark was touching into, maybe they are just trying to arrest you on your pricing and try to reverse engineer your deliveries and see if they can save some buck here or there. I don't know, but we've never had a client ask specifically for a number of persons or cameras.
Mark, you wanted to come back in?
Well, it could also be that the client is a union shop and they want to make sure you're hiring enough of the union members to do the production.
Yeah. Those things are both, all these perspectives, very valid. I will say I have not had that specifically, but it doesn't surprise me. And part of that is that I learned too late in my career probably, the value of qualifying clients. You can occasionally get clients who don't really understand what they want or need. So they will come in from a brush up against the industry, and their buddy who lives 2 doors down that they were drinking at night said, well, we did a 4-camera shoot, so that's much, much better for the edit than a 2-camera shoot. And then they'll specify that. And when you ask them, so why did you specify 4 cameras? What is it specifically that you need? They will have no clue. So it's to me, one of the things I always tried to do at first was ask smart enough questions and figure out whether this producer, quote unquote, because it used to be a meaningful term, but now it's anybody with a camera sometimes. Do they really understand the logistics of reproducing content and capturing content? And do they understand the why you would put somebody on a crew as opposed to my last 4 shows, they tell me I had this many crew people, so that's what I need. Mark Giuliani, you wanted to come back in again?
Yes. Eduardo clarifies in the chat. It seems they want to tell me if I should use certain staff or cameras to cut down the quote, to cut down the price.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, either the client has done a lot of these and knows exactly what they want, or they're trying to micromanage you and probably don't have a lot of experience.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen all this kind of stuff over and over again. And I got to tell you, when I was working for PetSmart for all those years, I went through a lot of purchasing department and saw the purchasing department grow from when they had 60 stores to when they had 1,000 stores. You get just different criteria. People are changing at the top. And sometimes you just are there trying to do a quote in an environment where the people putting out the request for proposals are different than they were before, and they have different kind of, it's not pain points so much as it's just different things of mind that this particular contract officer will focus on as opposed to this other contract officer. So who knows why you get some of these requests, but you certainly do. It's just part of business, and you have to learn to deal with it. Next question.
Paul Wallace from Austin, Texas. Apple Siri is now powered by Gemini. Does this give Apple and Google an industry edge?
This is an interesting question. Ronnie, what do you think?
I think by bringing millions and millions and millions of users into using Gemini, even if Apple probably do stuff around that implementation and how Siri is going to work and what will be available and what's not, I think bringing all those users into the Gemini platform will probably be a really, really good data point, and increased usage will probably also improve the quality. So having millions of users complaining of something is probably better than having 10 internal developers thinking, is this a good idea or not? So back to the thing we answered just a few minutes ago, I think the competition is really, really hard. And of course, most people using Android phones and Apple devices, if the experience is similar, maybe other companies is not that lucky after all, but time will show. I'm really skeptical due to the story that has developed the last few years, and how Siri actually went from being something cool to something that I didn't use at all, other to remind me to put more money on the meters when parking somewhere.
Hey, thank you for spending part of your Saturday with it. We truly appreciate it. It's been great to be back with you guys and to see these panelists and everybody else in the Office Hours back-end crew. Don't forget, we want to say thank you to everybody, to those producers, those of you who asked questions, put them in the show, voted on them, voted them up and down. Can't do this show without you. To the panelists who showed up today, thank you guys. I appreciate it. You being here more than I can tell you. And it makes a much better show when I'm answering as little as possible. To the back-end crew, the silent group of people in the back doing things, we cannot also do this without you, and we truly appreciate your contributions to each and every show that we do here at Office Hours. The Tula Commercial today, this is episode 2125, 2,125 of these behind us. You would have had to go to get these answers 40,000 miles, that's 65,000 kilometers, 320 million bananas for scale. Thanks for watching. We'll see you here tomorrow.
Yay! Just another one.
Yay! Yay!
Man, I wanted to talk flamethrowers.
Question away. We all saw that question coming up, and I was thinking, do I want to go over for that? But I don't know whether the Saturday
until Monday, I think, so that
yeah.
Justy can listen to
that'll come back.
Answer.
All right. Yeah. Well, Monday. That's right. I haven't been on the Monday show. I don't think I've ever been on the Monday show. I don't think I've ever been on with Grant. Anyway, neither here nor there. This was fun. Thank you all.
Yeah, everybody have a good day. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Adios.